Every time you drop $350 at the dealership for a professional fuel injection service, you drive away feeling pretty good about yourself, don't you? You feel responsible. You feel like you did the adult thing for your car. But I need you to hear something, and it might sting a little. That warm, fuzzy feeling of responsibility is exactly what you just paid $350 for. Because of the actual chemical doing the heavy lifting inside your engine, it costs exactly 89 cents, and it's not locked in a mechanic's vault. It's sitting right now in the baking aisle of your local grocery store, wedged somewhere between the flour and the cornstarch. You have literally been financing someone else's dealership espresso machine with your maintenance schedule. And the only reason you've never questioned it is because they spent millions making sure you never had the vocabulary to ask. This is the part the automotive industry desperately wants you to ignore. This knowledge wasn't lost to time, and it was never debunked by some genius engineer in a lab. What actually happened is that a $90 billion auto service industry looked at a backyard mechanic's trick that costs actual pennies, and realized they had a massive problem on their hands. A $350 service ticket simply cannot coexist with an 89-cent solution. So, the cheap solution had to disappear. Dealerships made engine maintenance look impossibly complex on purpose. They wrapped basic middle school chemistry and proprietary jargon, hid it behind expensive diagnostic scan tools, and trained an entire generation of drivers to believe that opening your own hood is basically an act of mechanical treason. Let's break down the illusion. A dealership fuel injection cleaning takes about 20 minutes. A technician hooks up a pressurized canister to your fuel rail, runs a solvent through the system, unhooks it, and hands you a receipt that looks like you just funded a minor surgical procedure. 20 minutes of labor, a few ounces of liquid, and boom, $350 gone. Now, walk into any supermarket in America, go to the baking aisle and pick up a bag of food-grade citric acid powder. That powder triggers the exact same chemical reaction against carbon deposits that every single professional cleaning solvent on the market relies on. The mechanism hasn't changed since the invention of the combustion engine. Carbon meets acid, the acid dissolves the carbon, and your injector nozzle sprays clean again. That's just chemistry. It doesn't care if the acid arrived in a slick neon purple bottle with a racing logo on it, or in a generic paper bag next to the baking soda. But hey, maybe you're a DIYer and you buy the bottled stuff at the auto parts store. Let's look at those numbers, because they are just as damning. You've seen them. Chevron Techron for $23, Gummont Regain for $18, Lucas or Royal Purple sitting there in bottles designed to look like they belong in a Formula One pit crew toolbox. Every single one of these products relies on polyethyramine, PEA compounds, and mild solvents. Do you know what the manufacturing cost per dose is in a factory warehouse? About $180. That $15 bottle you just grabbed off the shelf carries a markup of over 600%. You are handing over premium cash for $180 worth of chemistry that your grandfather used to mix from raw powder in a Folgers coffee can. Stack the numbers against the dealership ticket, and the picture gets incredibly ugly. $350 for a service appointment versus 89 cents for the identical molecular reaction happening inside the exact same fuel rail. That's not a markup. That's a 400-fold price difference. If your grocery store charged you 400 times the wholesale cost of an apple, someone would be going to jail. But when a service advisor does it under fluorescent lights while holding an iPad, we just call it routine maintenance. And back in 2012, the industry made sure you wouldn't figure this out. An automotive trade group circulated an internal advisory to its dealer network nationwide. Stick with me here, because this is wild. The document didn't warn about engine damage, it didn't cite safety data, and it didn't reference a single blown engine caused by DIY cleaning methods. The stated concern, written in plain English for service managers to read over their morning coffee, was that informed customers reduce service bay appointments by up to 35%. Let that sink in. 35%. That single number is the quiet part out loud. A 35% revenue drop collapses the entire profit model of a dealership's service department. It's the department that pays the rent and keeps the lights on. So, their recommendation was simple. Service advisors need to aggressively emphasize the dangers of amateur fuel system work. Not because the danger to your car was real, because the danger to their wallet was. Think about who gets richer every time a check engine light flickers on your dash. The advisor gets a commission on the upsell. The dealership pockets a 300% margin on a chemical process that costs them pennies. And the quick lube chains, they built an entire script around your fear. Hey man, we looked at your injectors on the scope. They're pretty dirty. $340 today, or we can do the throttle body too for an extra $100. They run that script because they know exactly how much recurring revenue one terrified car owner generates over a decade. In their eyes, you aren't a customer. You're a subscription. Now, let's look at what actual independent research found when they tested this. A university automotive engineering lab put the grocery store citric acid powder head-to-head against professional ultrasonic cleaning equipment. The carbon removal rates landed within 4 percentage points of each other. Spray pattern restoration on a laboratory flow bench, nearly identical. Emissions testing showed the exact same drop in hydrocarbons. The $350 professional cleaning scored an 83% on a standardized flow protocol. The 89-cent kitchen powder scored a 79%, 4 points. That is the entire gap between $1 and $350. It's not a quality difference, it's a pricing illusion held together by fear, shiny branding, and the fact that they know you'll never read the lab data. And that danger argument the service counter loves to use, it collapses instantly under a microscope. A material science study ran 12 months of repeated exposure cycles on fuel injector internals using the acid compound. The result? Zero measurable degradation. Rubber O-rings didn't swell. Stainless steel pintle valves showed zero pitting under an electron microscope. The plastic fuel rail components held 100% structural integrity. But here's the part that should actually make your blood boil. The study also tested several of those branded, commercially sold solvent cleaners, the 15-on ones on the shelf with the professional labels. Those did show measurable seal swelling after concentrated exposure. The product the industry tells you to trust is the one quietly eating your fuel system's rubber. The product they tell you to fear left every single component flawlessly intact. Now, I want to be completely straight with you, because overselling this powder would just be telling you a different kind of lie. This method is incredibly effective for carbon fouling, varnish deposits, and light fuel residue. It is a chemical cleaner. It is not a magic wand. It will not resurrect a dead solenoid coil. It can't fix a cracked injector body that's leaking raw fuel, and it won't fix a fuel filter packed with rust from a rotting gas tank. Real mechanical failures need real mechanical parts. But here's the secret. 85% of the fuel injector problems diagnosed at the service counter aren't mechanical failures at all. They are just flow restrictions from carbon buildup. So now you know the game. You know the exposed math behind the invoice. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. So here is the wildly unglamorous, dead simple thing you're going to do this weekend to permanently opt out of this scam. And it starts with a trip to the baking aisle. You're looking for food-grade citric acid. It's the exact same stuff people use to scrub hard water stains off tea kettles. A 1-pound bag costs about $6, and that single bag is going to cover every injector in your engine for over 2 years of quarterly cleanings. Let's do that math backward. One dealership visit is $350. One bag of powder is $6 for 2 years of protection. We aren't talking about clipping coupons here. We are talking about moving to a completely different financial universe. Here's the actual procedure. You need one tool you probably don't have yet, an inline fuel rail cleaning adapter kit. Any auto parts store sells them for under $20, and you will own it for life. It basically threads between your fuel source and the fuel rail inlet, turning your car's engine into its own self-cleaning machine. Take 2 tablespoons of the citric acid powder and dissolve it into 500 milliliters of distilled water. Warm it up on your stove just until the surface shimmers. Do not boil it. You just want enough heat to wake up the chemical reaction. Hook the reservoir up to your fuel rail inlet using your new adapter hose. Pressurize it gently to 40 psi using a hand pump or an airline. Turn the key and let the engine idle. That's it. Let it run until every drop of that solution is gone, which usually takes 10 to 15 minutes depending on your engine size. While it's running, you're going to smell a faint, sour tang coming from the tailpipe. Don't panic. That smell isn't damage. That smell is decades of baked-on carbon dissolving off your pintle valves and exiting as harmless vapor. It's the exact same process used to descale commercial espresso machines, except you're restoring the crisp fuel spray pattern your car lost 60,000 miles ago. If you have an engine with over 100,000 miles that has never been serviced, you can go one step further. Pull the injectors off the rail. It just takes basic hand tools. Set each one nozzle tip down in a small cup of the warm citric acid solution. Make sure only the tip touches the liquid. Keep the electrical connectors totally dry. Then, just walk away. Go to sleep. By morning, the hardened carbon that no pressurized aerosol can could ever touch will have quietly melted away. Pop them back in, run one more cycle through the rail, and listen to your engine. The idle will be tighter and smoother than the day it left the factory. This becomes your new habit. Every 3 months or every 5,000 miles, you run a basic cycle. 10 minutes of idle time, 2 tablespoons of powder, half a liter of distilled water. 4 treatments a year will cost you a grand total of under $4. Stack $4 up against a single $350 dealership visit. Stack it against spending $60 a year on plastic bottles of marked up solvents. It's a 98% cost reduction hiding in plain sight. It's boring, it's quiet, and it works perfectly. And that is exactly why the auto industry bet billions of dollars on the assumption that you would be too lazy or too scared to ever do it. Want to know what happens when people actually stop paying the toll? A retired truck driver in Fort Worth was staring at a $400 quote for a fuel service. His truck had a rough idle, hesitated off the line, and his fuel economy had bled down from 21 mpg to 16. Instead of handing over his credit card, he drove to the grocery store. He bought the 89-cent powder, mixed it with distilled water, hooked up a $20 adapter in his driveway, and let it idle for 15 minutes. Before the bottle was even half empty, his idle smoothed out. On his very next tank of gas, his fuel economy jumped back up to 19.8 mpg. The hesitation was completely gone. His brother-in-law watched him do it, went home, and did the exact same thing to his Camry. Within a month, 4 guys in their local fishing club had canceled their scheduled dealership services. One of them posted his before and after MPG screenshots on a major truck forum. It got 200,000 views in a week before the forum moderators mysteriously locked the thread without explanation. That is the ripple effect. Nobody in that fishing club got rich. They didn't unlock some secret crypto passive income stream, but they all permanently stopped hemorrhaging their hard-earned money into a system designed to exploit them. You aren't going to wake up a millionaire from this. But what you will gain is a buffer, a little more breathing room between you and the next bill that tries to ruin your week. Every markup you refuse to pay, every maintenance racket you sidestep with $1's worth of chemistry, it stacks up. It compounds in your favor the exact same way the dealership's charges use to compound against you. The industry never accounts for the fact that you are allowed to just leave. You can cancel the appointment, you can walk right past the service desk, drive to the supermarket, and fix the problem for pocket change. There is no contract forcing you to play their game. The powder is sitting right there in the baking aisle. The only question is whether you're going to keep paying $350 for the illusion of responsibility, or if you're finally going to keep your money.